Hey, good evening. It's Saturday, January 4th, and welcome back to Everyday Talk 24/7. It's great to end the week with you. We're going to finish our short discussion on anxiety. Last night, remember, we talked about we're in this war with anxiety, and that if we're looking for circumstances to change as the reason to calm our anxieties, it's not going to happen. Anxiety is not produced by circumstances. Anxiety is produced by our reaction to those circumstances, in our ability to trust God, and in our ability to love. And that's what I want to talk about tonight. In John's epistle, in the 4th chapter, he says this: "There is no fear in love, but perfect love drives out fear, because fear has to do with punishment. The man who fears is not made perfect in love." And all that means is the man who fears is not completed in love. We're robbed of something. When we're anxious about something fearful, something worrisome, and we can either be overwhelmed with that, or we can do what God's called us to do, because God has called us to be about love. Loving God and loving our neighbor are the two greatest commandments. So what John is telling us here is that when I face a fearful situation, an anxious situation, I need not to be dominated by the situation, but to put on love. Put off the fear and the anxiety, and to put on love. See, when Jesus commands us, don't be anxious, when Paul tells us not be anxious, he's not doing it in a vacuum. We're to put on love as a replacement for that. Now, I'm going to go back to the story of Ruth to give us a practical example of exactly how this works. Last night, remember, we talked about Ruth's commitment, that she was not going to leave Naomi, that wherever she goes, Ruth will go, that Naomi's people will be her people, that Naomi's God would be her God. And where you die, I will die with you. That is that commitment. So they leave this land where they were, and they head back. They leave Moab and they head back to Israel. Naomi is able to reclaim the place where they were, but they have no ability to care for themselves, to produce anything like that, food for themselves. So Ruth goes out to glean. It's the time when they come back, they're beginning to glean the harvest. And it's a very risky thing that she does. She goes out by herself as a woman without anybody to defend her. And she happens into the field of Boaz, but she didn't know that. And it happens that she's protected by Boaz and by his men. That is a time of going out, leaving the house, is a time of great anxiety for her. With no protection, foreign people that she doesn't know, but she's committed to care for and love her mother-in-law. She's staked her life on it. She's all in. She's giving herself up. That's what love is. When you give yourself up to do what God has called us to do. That's why Jesus is the perfect example of love. He totally gave himself up to love God and to love us at a huge, huge price. So Ruth goes and does this, and the Lord blesses her. And then yet again, Naomi tells her, go to this, at the time when they were celebrating the harvest, go to where Boaz is, and essentially let Boaz know that she will prepare to be his wife, so that the kinsman redeemer can be taken care of, But it makes Naomi happy because it means Ruth will be taken care of. And again, this young woman acts out of love for God, for her mother-in-law, and God richly blesses it. As we said, the union with Boaz represents faithfulness to God, and this daughter of Moab, fulfilling the promise made to Lot centuries before, becomes in the line of Christ and the grandmother of King David. It's stunning, God's faithfulness. But she acted in love. She overcame the fears and the anxieties that would be there. And instead of being dominated by them, she acted in exactly the way that John says. There is no fear in love, but perfect love drives out fear. You see, Ruth wasn't concerned with punishment. She was concerned with honor, honoring God, honoring her mother-in-law. She was perfected in love because she put love first. She put God first. Love and anxiety, they go together. But one must die and go away, and one must go forward. And that's what God wants us to be about. Anxiety is a part of life. The question is, what are you and I going to do about it? Are we going to be controlled by our fears? Or are we going to find out what is it that God calls us to? What is the loving thing He wants us to do? And we know that He will bless and honor that. We know we're not facing punishment. We know we will be blessed and honored by God. Maybe not in an immediate sense. Maybe it's a life of sacrifice. Maybe it's a life of pain. But still, you know, acting in love, you're driving out fear, because perfect love drives out fear, drives out anxiety. So yes, love and anxiety, they go together. But if we focus on love and honoring God, then the anxiety falls away, and what's left is this life of love, peace, where fear is defeated and love wins. And that's the thought for this night. Again, love your thoughts and your feedback. This is so important for us because 2025, I firmly believe, will be filled with more opportunities for anxiety than we could possibly imagine, but not more than what God has called us to if we respond in love. Have a great Lord's Day tomorrow, and Lord willing, we'll see you on Monday. Thank you for being here.